My name is William Uricchio. My previous experience in online communities is that of a lurker. I think I define the term lurker. I go to a lot of different communities, Second Life, Facebook, you name it, and I lurk. I've been thinking a lot about that, and I would have to say my first, I'm not sure if it counts as media, but it's sort of a screen culture moment. My very first image that I can remember is an image of the windshield of a car coming out of a tunnel. I was, I guess, with my parents, and I was in a car, and we were driving out of a tunnel. And I can date it. I must have been about 1.5 to 2, somewhere in that period. And I can date it because the car had one of those splits down the center of the screen, old-fashioned car that my parents got rid of when I was 2 years old. And I remember vividly. What I remember about this image, and it's a crazy image to remember, is the surface of the glass and seeing the entrance, the light at the end of the tunnel coming closer, but being acutely aware that I was looking at a surface, a glass surface, the surface with this divider down the middle of the screen. So yeah, it's a window, and I guess Anne Friedberg has talked a lot about the power of windows as a metaphor, but I guess I would also define that as a media moment, because it wasn't like I was looking through the glass onto the tunnel, but at the glass. So for me anyway, screen culture is everything that has to do with the reflection, projection, emanation of images on two-dimensional surfaces. And that, I guess, includes paintings. I mean, I know it includes paintings for me, panoramas, television, film, navigating systems in cars, haptic surfaces that we're getting today with today's touchscreens. And transformed? Well, they've been in a state of nonstop transformation. So I think at the moment we're seeing some pretty interesting work in the linkage of the haptic dimension, the tactile, as well as the sense of mobility, the sense of place-bound screens that are in sync with our own movements in the world. So since screen culture has been in a nonstop state of transformation, and by that, again, I mean the production of these screens and their images, the uses of them, their deployments socially, those have been in a nonstop state of transformation. And I guess history gives us some insights into how, when we introduce new technologies, when we introduce new capacities for those screens, how we might expect people to react, how we might expect societies to react, what kind of uses we might make of them. History gives us a sense, I think, of desires that people have when it comes to these kinds of surfaces, and desires that aren't always fulfilled, but that seem to come back maybe later. So I think history is offers us a great way to read the changes in screen culture, and perhaps to predict where those changes might be headed. Well, the media industry, just like the industries of the past, is in a rough state, I would say. I mean, because industries tend to accrete around they tend to invest and accrete around particular constellations of technology or particular uses. They're a little bit resistant to change, or they imagine change within the strictures of their own organization. And when we do see fundamental changes coming down the road, I think large-scale media organizations are sometimes the least capable of responding flexibly. If you think of the history of the early film industry, the people that started it, at least in the U.S. context, the Edisons, Vitagraphs, Biographs, but they are the ones that lost the business by 1913 when a new business model, a new sense of how the business might go entered the scene. So I think today's giants are probably, like dinosaurs. They're large, they're powerful, but their mobility is a little bit hindered. So I think we can expect some new entries into the scene. I think power in today's media industry and today's screen culture is actually shifted away, maybe away from the old dynamic of owners and users to another layer, perhaps the layer of the program, the layer of the algorithm, the layer of the platform. As we're seeing pretty fundamental changes in technology and ways in which we're putting those technologies to use, I think actually it's that third level, it's the metadata level that we have to look at. Sure, there are people that do it, but it's not exactly the owners of industry, and it's not exactly the users. There's some in-between layer. Social tagging would be another really interesting place to look, but it's not as if it's a democracy and we just vote, one man, one vote. It's really something that's tweaked and refined and shaped by the algorithmic layer. So I think for me, the power is shifting away from the kind of classic capitalist economic interest or the economic polarization of owner and consumer to something else. And that something else strikes me, at least at the moment, as being something like the algorithm. The most exciting media technology I've seen is still television. And it's television not because of anything that is being programmed, or at least I guess I'm more ambivalent on that level, but it's because that's a medium that is fundamentally redefines itself again and again and again technologically. It's in a non-stop, from its start in the late 19th century, has been in a non-stop state of transformation. And it's that transformation that I find really compelling and intriguing. The most exciting use of a media technology would have to be, at the moment when I'm speaking, photosynth. Yeah, even though Microsoft had bought it and branded it, photosynth is a really interesting I think, transformation of what we understand of as photography, except it problematizes the subject, the notion of agency. It even problematizes the notion of what is an image, what is the accurate image. There's no way to quite capture it because it's a composite of many different images. An environment into which we move, and it's a moving environment, at the same time it's a still environment. It doesn't quite fit easily within our categorization systems. So I think right now that's an application that I think is it really has my interest. I think 50 years from now people are going to be shaking their heads wondering what the heck we were doing. I think this is a fairly pivotal moment of change. I mean, I think change is always with us. Media have always been transforming, but there are moments of accelerated change, and we're certainly inhabiting one of those moments. And as we've seen from the past, those moments of acceleration bring with them conservative forces that are eager to sort of hold on to their traditional uses of media, whether for economic reasons or reasons of familiarity, at the same time that we're seeing all kind of interesting new applications struggle to emerge and struggle to be put back into the bottle by the industry. So it's a moment of terrific complexity, a terrific amount of innovation, and yet a lot of constraint. So I think it's kind of a key moment of battle.